everybody, I'm Sean Holsinger from HolsingersFlyShop.com. Bringing you another fly time video this week. This week it's one that's coming off in our area right now. It's the little black stone. I'm going to be tying it in a dry fly. And reason being is I was out fishing yesterday and I saw a ton of them on the water. Trout weren't really keying on them yet. One thing you'll know about a stonefly is it doesn't emerge to the top like a mayfly does. It'll crawl up on a rock, hatch on top of the rock, or up on the bank or something like that to hatch. So you don't have that emerging effect, and it doesn't spend a lot of time on the top. So the trout don't always key on them, but they do feed on them. So it's a great pattern to have in your box. You know, there's days out there that they're going to be looking up and seeing them and taking them. So have some in your box. I'm not going to talk a whole lot here. Let's just get into tying it. It's a very cool pattern, not hard to tie. And you'll probably learn a new wing trick here if you haven't tied these before. So here it is in the vise and then the material list to tie it. Alright, here you see the little black stone in the vise. Very cool little pattern. And let's get into tying it. So for a hook, I'm going to use a 419 Firehole. I'm going to tie this anywhere from like a size 14 to a size 16. And we're going to use some black Nano silk. This is 12-watt Nano silk. And we're just going to start that on there and wrap it back to the bend of the hook. Now, next thing I'm going to use is some C.D.C. in black, and I want to try to find a longer one here. Well, we're going to go with this one. Nice long feather, lots of fibers on it that we can twist up. So we're going to take and I'm going to pinch the fibers in my fingers, and I'm going to trap them all down so I can have a nice little clump to tie down on my hook there. We're just going to tie it in by the tips and go back to that bend of the hook again. Now, I have a rotary vise. I like to use it when I can. So I'm going to bring my thread up to the eye, and I'm going to put my thread in my holder here. Then I'm going to take my Hackle pliers, and on the back of this C.D.C, I'm going to clamp my Hackle pliers onto it. Okay, then I'm going to twist my Hackle pliers and just twist this to make a nice, I don't know how to say it other than like a dubbing loop or a twisted dubbing or whatever. And then I'm going to use my rotary vise to twist this forward. Now you could do this by hand if you want, no big deal. When I get a little bit up there, whoops, I will often give it a little bit more twist just to make it a little bit tighter. You see there? And I'm just going to make nice side-by-side wraps until I get up close to the eye, about an eye length behind the eye. Push that out of the way, and then we're going to wrap this off. Those long fibers we're going to trim off here in a second, so don't worry about them. So just trim off the extra there at the head. And I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Okay, now these long fibers, what I do is I pinch them all with my fingers, get them all up on top, and then just come in with my scissors and trim them off. I leave it a little bit buggy, that's good looking, and that's good. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the big feathers. This is a Grizzly feather, and this is just on a neck, and it's one of the big longer feathers up at the top. And you see how I'm going to pull the fibers off like that. And we're going to tie it down by that stem that I pulled off. So I'm going to make about 2 or 3 loose wraps up on top. And this is the hardest part of the fly. It's going to take a little bit of practice. So you're going to wrap it on there loosely, and we're just going to slowly pull it out until we get it right to the bend of that hook. And then I'm going to come back and tie it down nice and tight. Make some nice tight wraps there. And then we're going to trim all these fibers off up front. So this makes our wing. If you watch these guys, they got actually 4 wings that lay backwards, but they lay on and they stack on top of each other. So you see there, that goes right down over that body. We got this stem, so we're going to trim that stem off. And we got ourselves a nice little wing that lays right down over the back of the body, and that's the way they look. So, next part here is optional, and this you can put a little cider on it, and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna put a little cider on it, and I don't want much here, but we're gonna put a little bit of orange ANTRON, orange, green, whatever color you have, or you like to use that you can see better. And I'm just gonna trim that off. So there's my cider. Get that tied in. Now, what you don't want, you want to see the cider. You don't want the fish to see the cider. So from the fish's view, looking up at it, there you can't see that cider. That's your goal. So don't put so much on that you're going to be able to see it. Next thing and last thing is I'm going to come in with another Grizzly Hackle. And I got that. I like to pull the fibers off and give me a tie down point, and I had that a little bit too long there, and I just had to trim that back down some. And so we're gonna tie that on, go up to the eye of the hook, and come back in with my hackle pliers again. And I'm just gonna wrap this hackle on and work from back to front. Oops, that usually happens, no biggie. Pulled a little hard there. So I'm going to try to loosen up on my wraps just a little bit. You want your hackle to be the width of the hook gap. Go nice side by side wraps. That one a little closer. There we go. And work our way up there to that eye. And then we're going to tie it off. Make 3 or 4 wraps there, get it good and tight. And then I'm going to trim off the extra hackle. Don't trim off my thread. And then come in with a whip finish and we'll be done. This is a cool little pattern right now here. Whoops, in April, coming into April, end of March. These things are popping on a nice sunny day around my area. I just was out on the stream yesterday and saw a ton of them. So, one thing I will say though, I'm going to be 100% honest. Trout don't always key on these guys, but sometimes they do. It's just good to have some in your box. These are stoneflies, so they don't spend a lot of time on top of the water. You're going to see them mainly as a spinner dropping their eggs. So that's why the trout don't key on them as much, because they don't spend a lot of time on the top. So there you go, the little black stone. Alright guys, I hope you like that pattern. Like I said, not that hard to tie. Practice on your wraps. If you're new to tying and you're into dry flies, starting into dry fly tying, practice those wraps, keeping them nice and tight and side by side, and just go slow with it and take your time and make a nice looking hackle. So cool fly to tie, cool fly to fish. I love stone flies, and this one always excites me because it means spring's here for me. Whenever you get a nice warm day, like here it is middle of March in central Pennsylvania, and we're having some warm weather, a nice warm snap, and these guys were just popping everywhere yesterday. So had them crawling on me, and seen them going across the brim of my hat and stuff while I'm fishing, and spring's about here. So anyways guys, if you need any of the material, like always, holsingersflyshop.com is the place to find it. And if you have any questions, drop a comment or drop me an email at holsingersflyshop@gmail.com. And until next week when I bring you another fly tying video, I'm Sean Holsinger.